Awesome. Good morning, folks. Welcome in. It's nice to see some of you. It's nice to get started. I hope you're having a great Friday, that you've enjoyed your week, and that you're excited to be with us here this morning. I'll give it another minute or so before we really get things started with all of the updates for you. But I will give you a few housekeeping items at this stage. At this time, we are recording this session, so if you're not comfortable being on camera or potentially in the recording, don't worry about it. You can turn off your camera. That's totally fine. This also means we'd appreciate it if you stay muted unless you're asking a question, so that we can hear our Director of Admissions and our presenters this morning as they share information with you. I will introduce myself because I'm terrible at remembering to do that. But many of you I've emailed over the time. My name is Caitlin Anderson. I'm the National Recruitment Officer here at Carleton University. And I'm super excited to spend the morning with you to put some faces to some names and just continue our communication. So if you have any questions throughout the morning, anything that you're looking for assistance with from us or updates for, please do feel free to use the chat. The chat is there. We are monitoring it so that we know what your questions are, and we can help to provide any updates as we go through. We'll also have some space to do some live Q&A, so we're looking at those to answer those as we go. So we've still got a number of people coming in, so I'm going to give it some time to let everyone get settled before we hop into things. So as a reminder, this session this morning is being recorded, so if you're not comfortable being potentially in the recording, you can go ahead and turn off your camera. That way you won't be captured. And if you could remember to keep your microphones muted, that would be fantastic so that we could hear everyone who is presenting this morning. So before we launch into our updates this morning on admissions at Carleton for this year, I would like to make some space just to make a land acknowledgement. Carleton University is located in Ottawa, Ontario, and on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. This isn't just something we say at the start of every presentation, although it is something that we say at the start of every presentation. We really appreciate the land on which we get to gather, that we get to learn together, and that we get to grow together upon. And at Carleton, we're continually taking new steps and bigger steps towards reconciliation and support of our Indigenous students and community. So it's an exciting time to be on campus, to be working towards these initiatives, and for students to be looking at coming to Carleton next fall or in the future. So I'm excited to hand things over this morning. You don't have to listen to me all morning. I'm excited to hand things over to our Director of Admissions, Jen Sugar, who will provide some updates on what admissions looks like this year. Again, if you have questions throughout, continue to use the chat, let us know, and we're happy to answer those. But over to you, Jen.
Thanks so much, Caitlin, and good morning, everybody. It's so great to see all these people and see all these names kind of popping up, and a lot of names that I recognize and some that I don't, and a lot of people who I'm hoping to see again in person. I'm really looking forward to the time that we can host everybody and bring everybody back onto our campus for a proper guidance breakfast, which is one of the events that we look forward to every year. But I'm going to spend some time this morning just talking about what admissions looks like. Before I do that, though, I just want to say how thrilled I am that we're inching and creeping closer to normal. It is wonderful to see you all, and it's just wonderful to know that for the most part, people are back in school, they're back in class, they're back in physical contact with each other, and they're also back in contact with you. We have missed you. We missed you folks a lot. I know you worked last year and it was hard and it was weird and everything, but your students missed you, and when they couldn't or didn't ask questions to you folks, they asked them to us. And although we're happy to answer them, we're thrilled that everything is kind of creeping back a little bit to normal, and that you folks are there to play the role that you do so well, which is helping your students through this time, through this transition, and through all of the little bits and pieces and details that they need to master in order to get through their last year of high school and apply to university. So a bit of an update on what that is sort of going to look like this year. I'll just say right off the bat, this is a lot easier and a lot closer to normal than what we did last year. Last year was a bit of a monkey show. The quads were really hard on everyone. They were hard on you folks, the teachers, the students, everyone. It was hard on us because we were not getting grades at the regular intervals that we were sort of expecting them. So what we're seeing this year is that most schools are going back to their traditional pattern. So for the semestered schools, they're going back to a semestered system. For the non-semestered schools, they're going back to a non-semestered system. We know and have heard that there are a few holdouts, that there are a few schools that are still sticking with the quads, and that's fine. We've figured out how to manage all of that. And so we will deal with grades no matter how they come in. But really what we're looking for is actually a fairly normal or traditional cycle. And so what that means is that we will get grades roughly 4 times from the Ontario University Application Centre. So, if you have students who are going to be applying within the next month, the first grade download that we get for them is their grade 11 grades. So that's the first thing that we'll see for them. Then we're going to get grades in February. And so that'll be the stuff that they're doing now for their first semester. Then we'll get grades in April, May. Those will be their interim sort of midterm grades. And then we get grades at the end of the year. So those distributions are the same and were the same. Those are the same distributions, grade distributions that we got last year. But what's going to be different this year is that we'll come a little bit closer to a traditional kind of blend of courses and grades. And so what that means is that for the super, super early offers that we'll make, we usually start making offers in usually first or second week of December. For students who have applied, and we'll use only grade 11 grades for those offers. When we come back after the holiday break, we'll continue to make offers, and those will only be grade 11 grades. And the students who are getting those offers are made using much higher averages. And so those are sort of our early offers, our very, very early offers that we make to students. When we start getting that first grade distribution in February, what we start doing is combining the grade 12 grades that we have with the grade 11 grades, and then we calculate averages again, we look for prerequisites again, and we make another round of offers. When we get grades in April, at that point, aside from any schools that are still sticking to the quads from last year, we should have all grade 12 grades. So we'll have midterm grades from second semester, and we're going to have final grades from first semester. So at that point, we should be making offers using all grade 12 grades. And then, of course, we'll do another round on final. So as you can see, when I kind of lay it out that way, that's a pretty typical cycle. That's a pretty typical way that we'll sort of work through the cycle. We think that this will result in a lot less stress for students this year, because last year the biggest stress was that students had critical courses that they needed for admission in their last quad. And we weren't getting grades for those until the end of the year. And so we had students who had calculus and vectors and physics in the last quad, and they were really waiting for those grades. And so it was quite stressful for them to finish out that last quad while we were waiting for those grades. So we think that as we get closer to a normal cycle or more typical cycle, that the stress should go down a little bit. One thing we are maintaining this year, even with the sort of return to typical cycle, is a scholarship reassess based on final grades. And so normally we will stop reassessing for scholarship after midterm interim. But since COVID, we've been assessing students one more time for scholarship based on final. And so basically what that means is that, as most of you know, Carleton, when we calculate a scholarship average, we only ever reassess upward. And so it only works to the student's advantage to be reassessed on final. So what that means is that no matter where they sort of fall with their performance throughout the year, they'll take advantage of having the best scholarship calculation possible. So that's one thing that we are maintaining this year, even though we are sort of returning to normal. In terms of averages, your best guide is, of course, the view book. The view book is the best way to kind of guide your students about what the admission average requirements are. A reminder for you and for students, though, that we calculate two admission averages. So we calculate an overall average, and we also calculate a prerequisite average. So when you see that there is a grade requirement, the best thing to do is to tell the students that they need to have that grade requirement as an overall average, and they also need to, when they look at the 2 or 3 or 4 prerequisite courses, they need to be hitting that average for those prerequisite courses as well. And so that's something that that is really critical. And I'll use science, let's say, as an example. So we calculate averages using Best 6. Science has 3 prerequisites, so it's functions and 2 experimental sciences. So in the functions and 2 experimental sciences, you know, we want that science average that's listed in the view book, and we also want it for the overall. So we don't want a student who has a really low biology grade, for example, where the overall is being pulled up by an English or some other grade 12 grade where they're only hitting the overall average, but they're not hitting it on the prerequisites. So it's really critical that they're doing well overall, but that they're also doing well in those prerequisite courses. A reminder that Carleton only issues one offer of admission at a time. We only issue an offer of admission on first choice. And so we wait and see if we can make an offer to their first choice. If by that April grade date we can't, we give them an automatic alternate, and we give it to students in the thing that is closest to what they applied to, or to their second choice. If they've put a second choice on the application, we'll give them an alternate offer to that. And so because we only give an offer to one program at a time, of course, we tell them whether they're eligible for their other choices when we send them the offer. Because we make only one offer at a time, though, it's important to let students know that the ranking of their choices is critical. They shouldn't just throw them on the application. And so if commerce really is their first choice, then they really should rank it first. And not put film studies or economics ahead of it, because that's the first thing that we're going to look for to see if they're eligible. So that's just something to as a reminder now, because we know that pretty much within the next 2 months is the biggest time for students to start actually filling in their UAC application, going through, ranking their programs, doing their research, making their choices. And of course, it's hard to sort of convey this to students at this time of year, but 99% of the offers that we will put out there are conditional. They're conditional on their performance throughout the rest of the year. And this is a wonderful time. It's only the end of October. Optimism is still incredibly high. Everyone thinks they're going to meet the conditions. Everyone thinks they're going to have an 85 average by the end of the year. And that's awesome. That, of course, is not always the case. And so just a reminder that students need, even if they're holding an offer from us or from another Ontario university, they cannot take their hands off the wheel. They can't stop going to class. They can't get really low grades, because we will take their offer away. And no one wants to have a super sad conversation in July, especially us. And so we try to remind students throughout the year that all of these offers are conditional, and that they really they have certain conditions that they need to meet in order to keep their offer. When they get their offer of admission, we of course send them detailed information about those things, about the conditions and about the averages that they need to maintain. But we know that 17-year-olds are amazing at reading the things that we send them. And so, you know, we try to give them that reminder in a few different ways, just so that that we can kind of keep up with that throughout the year. So that's a little bit about the cycle. I can see there's a little question. There's a question here about semester 1 grade 12 midterm grades. In fact, UAC does collect semester 1 midterm grades every year. They always do. We never get them. And so those are not grades that we put in play for early offers. So those are not distributed to the universities at that time. The only semester or midterm grade 12s that we get are second semester midterms. So yes, they are collected, but no, we don't get them. So and so with that, I'll leave it there, at least for now, just because I know that there might be questions out there, and I want to make sure that I structure anything more that I say a little bit closer to any questions that you folks might have. So whether you want to stick your hand up, unmute yourself, or put it in the chat, we can take questions in all of the different ways. Really? I'm that amazing? There's got to be something out there. That's not possible.
I think the wheels are turning. It's early on a Friday morning.
That's right. Maybe people are still thinking about what they want to ask. The other thing that I think is going to be really helpful in terms of the students being back in schools and being able to talk to you and being able to talk to each other is also the panic that kind of happens around early offers. As I mentioned, we do start making offers in December and early January, and sometimes we get students who get stressed out by that because some students will get offers and some students won't. And so I think it's helpful to have them in the schools and talking to you folks so that you can remind them that, of course, if they're not getting an early offer, all hope is not lost. And that, you know, this is just really, it's kind of a rolling process. And, you know, we use the higher averages. Not all programs are even eligible for early offers. For those of you who are guiding your students to our portfolio programs, you know that all of our portfolios are due in early March. And so if a student is applying for a portfolio program and submitting their portfolio by early March, you know that all of those portfolios are going to need to be reviewed. It's going to take roughly a month, and we won't start even making offers to those portfolio programs until the end of March or early April. So there's a lot of students in those categories that'll never be eligible for like a super early offer. There's a question here about students wanting to apply for early admission. And so in terms of applying, basically, if a student wants an early offer and is in a program for which they might be eligible for an early offer, the sooner they apply, the sooner we'll assess them. It's just a matter of, like I just said, there's certain programs where they just won't be eligible for an early offer, but if they're applying for something fairly straightforward, like the Bachelor of Commerce or, you know, Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science, and they have high grades, then the sooner they apply, the sooner we'll be able to assess them in those early rounds, which means that we'll be assessing them based on those grade 11 grades. In terms of Dev Degree, which is the next question in the list. So Dev Degree is available, is basically our internship program with Shopify. So all of the students who have been given an offer to our Bachelor of Computer Science program by that February grade date, will be sent information about applying to Dev Degree. So they're sent a separate communication about how to fill in the application for Dev Degree and put themselves in the consideration for that. So for those students who have those high averages, they will be able to, they'll be able to follow the instructions and apply to Dev Degree. So they'll get that information communicated separately. If students are not accepted into their program of choice, do you offer one-year general programming to help them acquire the prerequisites to get into their program of choice? Complicated questions. So basically, if students aren't accepted into their program of choice, what we actually try to do is offer them an alternative program. And so if they're not eligible for science, let's say, we may offer them the Bachelor of Arts. And so what they can do is they can actually come and they can attend a different program, and then they can talk to us about where they fell short or which prerequisites they need in order to be able to transfer to that program in a following year. That isn't always the best way to go about it. And so if a student doesn't get into their program of choice, it's best that they contact us individually to talk about what they want to get into and let us guide them in their individual circumstance about how to do that. So for example, if a student doesn't get into engineering, transferring to engineering is quite difficult internally. And so in a lot of cases, we actually recommend that a student may return to high school and upgrade their prerequisites and then reapply to engineering. If a student doesn't get accepted to something very limited, like our Bachelor of Architecture program, there may be different ways to go about it that is more appealing to the student, such as returning to high school. They can also come here and do another program and try to apply for architecture. But getting into upper year architecture is even more competitive than getting into first year architecture. In first year, students are competing for one of 90 spaces. When they apply for upper year architecture, they're competing for one of 10 spaces. And so it becomes even more difficult. It's not impossible, but it becomes even more difficult. And it's just really important that we kind of figure out with the student, where do you want to go? And then let us guide them based on their individual circumstance, because there are a lot of sort of gray areas when it comes to not getting into their program of choice. So the next question is will students be prompted for supplementary applications, or do they complete the application and send it in after the initial application? So what happens is when students apply through the OUAC, they receive an acknowledgement from us. And in that acknowledgement, there are links specifically to the supplementary application information, and they need to follow that and fill that in. All of that information, the portfolios, the music audition, the supplementary application for social work, they all go directly to the schools themselves once they're filled in. But the instructions are quite detailed, and what's required is quite lengthy in most cases. And so students should anticipate spending a few months kind of going through things, writing and rewriting any supplemental applications, working on their individual portfolios, because really that is their opportunity to provide an indication of why they should be selected for these programs. It's a way of almost having an interview without actually being physically present for the interview. And so those are critical pieces, but they will get those supplementary application information once they apply. We also send sort of reminders throughout the cycle saying, hey, the portfolio deadlines are coming up. If you haven't done this yet, you need to do it. So we will prompt students on that as well. But like I said, it's best for them to get started as soon as possible. And I think those are all the questions that are in the chat. And I don't see any hands that have popped up. Okay. All right. So if there's no further questions, I'll hand it back to Caitlin for now, but I will be sticking around. So if there's anything else that comes up, please feel free to put stuff in the chat. Short answer to that last question is yes, they can get in. So a student goes to Algonquin and they transfer, they can do that. We use their Algonquin 2-year diploma as a basis of admission. The only thing is they do need a high average in order to do that, but absolutely, yes, they can do that. We do get students who transfer from Algonquin all the time. Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jen. This has been a great start to the morning in what is happening in admissions. And as we said, we'll continue the conversation. If you have more questions, feel free to continue to pop those into the chat as we go. What I'm excited to do next is start to open the floor to some of our faculties. We're going to be doing a couple of program highlights this morning to help showcase some of the programs that we think might be of interest to your students. So first, we're going to start with the Bachelor of Communication and Media Studies. So I'm excited to hand things over to Dr. Miranda Brady. She's here as an associate professor in the School of Journalism and Communication, as well as the director of the undergraduate studies supervisor of the Bachelor of Communication and Media Studies. So I'll hand it over to you, Miranda, to share some more about communication and media studies.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Can you see the slides here?
I can. They're all good to go.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about the Bachelor of Communication and Media Studies, or BComs, at Carleton. I know guidance counselors are really busy people, and I appreciate your time today. So BComs prepares students to enter a workforce that expects them to be analytical and adaptable in a rapidly changing mediascape. From fake news to TikTok influencers, our degree trains students to ask critical questions about the messages that swirl around them every single day, and to think about how they can shape a better future. As alumnus, Kayla Isabel said, who's now the Chief Executive Officer of Startup Canada, communication studies prepared me for my career by developing my ability to see clarity in complexity. And I should say, Kayla was offered her first professional position on the very day of her convocation. So BComs is a 4-year honors degree program that allows students to tailor their coursework to their unique interests. From year 1, students learn about the latest questions and debates that they see in their media environments, and we prepare them to understand these debates through a variety of perspectives, including historical, cultural, and political perspectives. And this really sets them up for success throughout the program. Students engage in hands-on research projects and workshops and select from our wide list of courses. So some examples, oops, I'll just go back here. Some examples include big data and society, communication and health, media, race and ethnicity, event management and community partnerships, and environmental communication. And these are just a few. So students can also add a minor, specialization, or certificate to focus their degrees. We also participate in the co-op or cooperative education program and assist with student placements in various sectors. I'll just highlight one student, Crystal Puguan, who had a co-op placement with Health Canada. And as Crystal states, the skills I learned in the BComs program, such as strategic communication, media analysis, problem solving, and time management, have prepared me for success in the workplace. And I'm happy to report that Crystal also got a full-time offer right after graduation. So our proximity to Parliament Hill, let's go back. Our proximity to Parliament Hill, not-for-profit organizations and industry, means our students benefit from many different kinds of opportunities. And this is a picture of our lovely building, which is right on the Rideau River, just a few minutes from Parliament Hill. When major issues occur on the Hill, at the Supreme Court, or in the halls of Parliament, our program is distinct from many others because students are able to be there in person as observers, to meet with political journalists, advocates, and others. And this also means we have access to experts who visit our classes as guest speakers. Our students have found rewarding work in private, I'll just go back, in private, public, and many different kinds of sectors, not-for-profit. They found work as advisors to federal cabinet ministers and as communication strategists with leading charities, NGOs, and corporations. They also work as entrepreneurs, researchers, and media and cultural policy analysts. In our upcoming Alumni Speaker Series event, we highlight the diversity of some of the career paths of our students, including a senior speechwriter for the Department of National Defense, the CEO and founder of Quake Lab, which is an inclusion and communications agency, and a public and patient engagement coordinator for the Canadian Medical Association, who's also a disability rights advocate. In addition to our rich alumni network, our faculty also have a very good reputation that connects students locally and internationally. And we built this reputation over more than 40 years. Our faculty assume key roles in our field that translate into experiential knowledge in the classroom and beyond. For example, Dr. Josh Greenberg recently won a Commentary Excellence Award for his contribution to discourse around public health risks. Dr. Dwayne Winsick is the principal investigator on a $2.5 million grant, which studies global media concentration. And Dr. Benjamin Wu, who is the director of the grant-funded Comic-Con's research project, and he's also the president of the Canadian Society for the Study of Comics. All these successes have meant opportunities for BComs students, from the classroom to paid research assistantships. And as consistent with the guiding principles of our program, we're interested in recruiting students who are curious, creative, engaged, and ambitious. And we provide a supportive and caring environment. There's a rich and vibrant student community on campus, including our Communication Undergraduate Student Society, which hosts mentorship opportunities and social events for new students. So fundamental to the way we live and vital to nearly every human relationship, industry sector, and professional field, communication and media are among the most relevant, exciting, and powerful subjects you can study. So if your students want to challenge convention, affect change, and connect with community, and be career ready, the Bachelor of Communication and Media Studies is the degree for them. And so please encourage your students to check out BComs at Carleton's upcoming open house on Saturday, November 6th and 20th. We're also really active on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. So please check us out there at Comms Carleton. And you can also visit our launch page to find out more of the nitty-gritty details on our program and the requirements. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Miranda, this morning for sharing with us some more information about communication and media studies. It's an exciting program for students at Carleton, and hopefully this has given you guidance counselors a little bit more insight as to what you can expect for your students in a program like this. If this is something that you think you have students who may be drawn to, absolutely let us know. We're happy to get them connected. And I will share some links in the chat that you can also share with your students to get them connected to some of the resources that Miranda has talked about this morning. Thank you so much. I'm excited. Next up, we will hear from our Faculty of Engineering and Design. So with us this morning, we have Hannah Sheridan. She's the Recruitment and First Year Transition Coordinator in the Faculty of Engineering and Design. So over to you, Hannah.
Hello, everyone. I just want to make sure we can see my screen.
You are good to go.
Perfect. So good morning. As Caitlin mentioned, I am the Recruitment and First Year Transition Coordinator for the Faculty of Engineering and Design. And I also graduated from Biomedical and Mechanical Engineering in 2019. I've decided to tackle today's presentation a little bit different because I think it would be advantageous for you guys to kind of see how our website looks and where you can find the information that I'm going to talk about today. So we are on the Carleton Eng and Design website. The first tab that I've opened up here is a list of all of our undergraduate programs. So we have over 13 undergraduate engineering and design programs at Carleton. We're the second largest in Ontario. And each of these little subsections will actually open up to the information on that page, have all the requirements, a little bit of information on labs and facilities. It'll also discuss co-op, what your time at Carleton will look like. And this is a great resource in helping students decide which area of engineering they're actually interested in. We've noticed that we've been getting a lot of questions about, I think I want to do engineering because I like physics and I like math and I like science, but I don't really know which engineering might be best for me. So this is a great resource for students to actually click on courses and actually get their course information so they can read what they would be doing in that program. It also outlines some future opportunities and, of course, the admissions requirements for our programs as well. So as mentioned, that is available for all 13 of our programs, both engineering and design. We are also a unique faculty because we do have 3 design schools within our faculty. That's architecture, information technology, and industrial design, excuse me. So this is our first page that I wanted to point out to you specifically that outlines all of our program information. The second area that I like to discuss is our program progression trees. So this might be a lot for students to see when they're only in high school, but they're definitely thinking about the programs they're going to be taking in university, as well as what kind of unique opportunities that they will get. So maybe once they've settled on a department, because all of our programs are divided into departments where like programs are with like programs, they'll actually be able to click on a program progression tree for the year and see the whole progression of every single course that they would take at Carleton in engineering and design. So for example, if we're looking at this tree, this is the tree for mechanical engineering from first year through to fourth year. It does not include co-op, but it is important to remember that co-op is offered for all of our engineering and design programs. And you can get a tree like this for every single one of our engineering programs. They're very unique as they have the course codes, the credits as well, whether they're online or not. I mean, right now everything is online. The electives as well as the elective courses you could take. And one big thing that I always like to mention is our capstone projects and our third year design course. So at Carleton in Engineering and Design, we really pride ourselves on connecting students with theory and practical experience. So typically for every 3 hours of class, we have 3 hours of lab associated with that class where students can actually apply the theory they've learned in class in real life. So for example, engineering dynamics, they will have a dynamics lab, adding 3 hours of lab a week to their schedule. And in these labs, they really do use technology that is used in industry, which can give them that extra hand up when they're looking for jobs. So for example, we have our Hydro Ottawa lab, where all of the equipment was actually donated by Hydro Ottawa and sponsored by them. So our students will be able to write on their resume that they've actually used all of that equipment already and know how to use it. So again, we've gone through our programs. We've gone through our program prerequisite trees, which is a great resource to use. I encourage students to look at these if they're having trouble choosing between programs. Then we also have a link to our co-op. So these now we're kind of moving forward to our current students tab. So these are all the opportunities students will have when they are current students. So as I mentioned, co-op is available for all of our engineering and design programs. It adds a year to their degree, so from 4 years to 5. And the unique thing about Carleton's co-op is they have the opportunity to divide that 16 months of work into different terms if they would like. So they can do 4-month terms, 8-month terms, or they can do one 16-month term at a company that they already know they want to work for. This gives students the opportunity to find where they fit in industry and really determine which area they like the most. It's very beneficial for students who choose mechanical, electrical, or software engineering, because those are both kind of flagship engineering programs that are very broad. So in dividing up your co-op terms to go to different areas of the industry, they might be able to figure out which area they like the most. So this co-op page actually highlights our featured employers for 2021. Every year we outline different featured employers, and students are actually able to click on these employers and actually get more information on the programs that would work with them, as well as what those companies actually do. So it's a great resource for students who are worried about where they can go with their degree and what they can do while they're in school to get those industry connections. Just personally of my friends, I know that most of my friends actually ended up getting job positions after graduation with their co-op placement as well. And then at the end here, we do have some co-op stories from alumni, PhD students, or other students who did co-op at Carleton. So that handles kind of our academic side of the Faculty of Engineering and Design. Another big reason that students are leaning towards Carleton is because of our excellent community. We have a direct entry into your program in first year. So there is no general first year. Students will apply for the program that they want and get into that program. That being said, first year is 80% common for all of our first year programs. So if they are looking to switch, it is possible. However, it can be difficult depending on the program they're looking to switch into, and it is based off of their grades and the capacity of that program. That kind of jumps into our clubs and societies. So because we have direct entry, we don't really have that competitive feel when you first start at Carleton in the Faculty of Engineering and Design. You are welcomed full-heartedly. Typically on a normal day, they'd be welcomed to residence with people dyed purple saying, "Pop that trunk," and carrying all of their stuff up to their residence room. This year, our clubs and societies have been doing a lot on Discord to stay involved with our current students first year through fourth year. And this just outlines some, not all, of our clubs and societies that students can get involved with. And these are opportunities that they can get involved with from first year. So there are many of them, and they are definitely worth looking into if students want to figure out how they can use their hands-on skills to do other things and potentially also travel with our competitive teams. The next thing, and I have only one more after this that I would like to mention, is our new Women in Engineering and IT program that we're offering at Carleton. So this is brand new. It's one of its only kind in Canada. We are supported by 16 industry and government partners. And when students actually join the mailing list, they'll be able to attend a series of networking events to build their professional network, learn from leading engineering and IT professionals through limited informal mentorship circles called Candid Conversations. So that's actually a 6-to-1 ratio where we have 6 current students and 1 industry professional there to have those candid conversations that we want to talk about what it's like being a female in the engineering industry. And finally, students will be able to develop their soft skills to gain a competitive edge for future opportunities. So again, on this website or this link, we do just have more information on all of these. So this is an opportunity that would be available to all of our female engineering students and IT students starting in first year. And then it also lists our industry partners. And the last thing I would like to touch on today is just our CU Virtually page, which is all of our resources currently available for prospective students. So if you do have any students that you know are already interested in engineering and IT or design, this page just outlines all of the opportunities we have for them coming up. So all of our upcoming events, we actually have architecture open house right after this today, plus a whole bunch of others that they can register for. We have our live chat, our Q&A, and then we also offer teachers and educators bring engineering and design to your classroom, where we'll do an in-depth presentation on all of our programs. And we also have our Future Ravens coffee break, where students can actually schedule a meeting with a current student, alumni, or professor to talk about their program. That is all for me today, everybody. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you have a good rest of your Friday.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hannah. There's so much happening in engineering and design, and hopefully this also helps in connecting your students with some resources. And I've posted the links that Hannah has been sharing in the chat, so feel free to take a screenshot or copy those down so that you have them, or reach out to Hannah or I afterwards, and we can definitely get you connected with those. Finally, our third faculty that we're going to highlight today is the Faculty of Science, specifically our Interdisciplinary Science and Practice program. So I'm excited to introduce Dr. Stephen Cook today, who's going to chat a little bit more about the program. He's both a professor and a director of the Institute of Environmental and Interdisciplinary Science. So over to you, Stephen. Exciting to hear what you have to say.
Thanks so much. Hi, folks. Thanks for joining us on Friday. I'm super excited to talk about interdisciplinary science and practice. That's a mouthful. I'm going to call it Isap from here out. This is one of our newest programs, not only in the Faculty of Science, but Carleton-wide. But this isn't the first time that we've worked in this space. We used to have another program that you might be familiar with called Integrated Science. Back in about 2017, we decided we wanted to revisit and rebuild the program, and we thought it best to actually dissolve that one and start from the bottom up. So leaning on what we thought were the best such programs around the globe, including the very popular and very competitive interdisciplinary science program at McMaster, we've built what we think is the interdisciplinary science program needed to serve employers and students for the next several decades. So we did extensive consultation when developing this program, interacting with folks in government, industry, NGOs. And that's really the goal of this program, is to ensure that students have the skills they need to be ready for employment when they graduate. There's a lot of, we have lots of science programs at Carleton, and they focus on the science. And when we talk to the various employers, everybody said, that's great, but guess what? We need a little bit more. We need folks that are able to help translate that science, communicate that science, help to turn that science into into policy and practice. And so that's really the genesis of this program. And we'll move to the next slide here. All right, so let's just break this down. So the I in ISAP stands for interdisciplinary, and that's because we recognize that we need to draw upon diverse disciplines. So it's not, just to solve the complex problems of today, it's not just chemistry or just earth sciences that we need to bring to the table. We need to draw on multiple disciplines and different forms of knowledge. So of course, Western science is something you're all familiar with, the natural and social sciences, but there's also other ways of knowing, for example, indigenous knowledge, and then stakeholder knowledge as well. So we need individuals who respect and understand how to bridge different knowledge sources. And then the P in ISAP is for practice. So that's recognizing that we need to apply the knowledge. And that requires other professional skills that normally we don't emphasize during a traditional science degree. So things like collaborative teamwork, science communication, knowledge brokering, and understanding the science policy interface, synthesizing diverse forms of evidence, and bringing together different types of data. So that's what ISAP is all about. This is a program that's already been well resourced. Normally, when we start a new program, we have to wait until we've got all sorts of bums in seats before we get new faculty members. Because we needed to do new things, we needed folks that were experts in science communication, folks that are experts in science policy and so on. We've already hired 4 new faculty members to support this program, but we also lean extensively on other professionals. For example, one of our science policy courses is taught by an individual who works at the Canadian Science Policy Centre. We have both honors and a BSc general degree, and students must select one minor in science. And so I've listed the various options there. So it still allows students and requires students to get some depth of understanding in one of the sciences, but they will take courses from across the broad spectrum of science. And then they're also able to take a second minor. This is encouraged but not required outside of science. So for example, might be able to put together a really interesting degree that combines things like, say, neuroscience and law, or business and chemistry, and so on. There is a co-op education option, and there's lots of flexibility. This is the type of program that allows really strong students to customize the program and get exactly what they want out of their degree. I just want to touch on an example of an interesting course that we've created, just to highlight the creativity and sort of even just the way that different things come together here. So Sean Landsman, who you can see there, who is one of our science communicators that we've hired, has been working with Sarah Everts in the School of Journalism, and they've come up with this joint field course where ISAP students are embedded at Queen's University Biological Station. So that's a field station about an hour from here, where they get to work with scientists, learning about their environmental research and producing science communication products to go with that. And you can see there, this is a 2-week course. The cost is $150, heavily subsidized by our university to ensure that it's open to all students in our program. We also expose students to really creative opportunities to learn and practice and develop their craft. So this past year, students worked on developing lay articles for something called Frontiers for Young Minds. And these were essentially evidence syntheses, but packaged for educated lay people on topics such as the stress response, dark matter, mental health, and so on. We also ensure that students are engaging in assignments that are real and timely, so that they can connect the dots from the various courses that they're taking and develop professional skills and connections. And so here's a great example. We went out to the Public Health Agency of Canada, PHAC, and said, hey, how can we help? And they said, wow, well, there's a lot of curveballs coming at us. Everything from pandemics to new drugs and so on. So how do we ensure that our workforce is prepared? And so the students, working with several professors, conducted an analysis to determine if the employees that work for PHAC had the tools and training to be innovative in their jobs. So not only are they getting excellent training, they're getting resume material. This is the kind of thing that will differentiate them from their peers when it comes time to seek employment upon graduation. When students graduate, they'll certainly be well prepared for employment or to enter graduate or professional studies. And here's just a few of the kinds of positions that we see students taking up, things such as science advisor. So these positions are embedded in most of our federal agencies here in Ottawa, as well as provincial and territorial governments. Knowledge brokers, so folks that understand the science and know how to communicate it to diverse audiences. Data analysts, professional science communicators, sales, law, education, and so on. At the end of the day, we're about building developing effective problem solvers that are exceptional communicators and team builders with a broad-based knowledge. To get into the program, there's 6 courses required. These must include advanced functions or calculus and vectors, and 2 of either biology, chemistry, earth and space science, or physics. If you have any questions about ISAP, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm super excited. We're only in our 2nd year of offering this program, so I can't tell you about all the great things that our students have gone on to do, but I know they will do great things. And as this program develops, we're convinced that it will become one of the most competitive programs in all of Ontario. Thanks a bunch.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephen. Again, a super interesting program, and because it's so fresh and so new, really something that we wanted to highlight to you guidance counselors this morning. And I hope that as Stephen was sharing, you're starting to think about students who may fit well into this area and who may be interested in ISAP or engineering or communication and media studies as options if they come to study at Carleton. So there was one question that came in there. Can you apply to the ISAP program from 1st year? Yes, you can. And I've posted, again, some helpful links for ISAP or Interdisciplinary Science and Practice, the tongue twister, in the chat there so that you have access to them as well. So this has been a super exciting morning. Thank you all so much for spending some time with us, getting connected, sharing information, and really being interested in what's happening here at Carleton, because I'm so excited to continue to share that with you. So thanks for taking the time. If you have questions, please do feel free to pop those continually in the chat or raise your hand. A great question, will we be highlighting different programs at the November guidance breakfast? Again, wishing for food, hopefully one day soon. We will. We'll be highlighting our Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, our Sprott School of Business, and our Enriched Support Program at our guidance forum in November. So if you'd like more information on those programs, you're welcome to attend again. If you have gotten your questions answered, you don't have any, you don't need to attend the 2nd session. It's definitely an optional one. We will also be recording that session like we did this morning. So you're welcome to review the information that way as well. I recognize that your time is very in demand, so we're trying to make this as flexible as we can. Additionally, we'll be hosting basically like an open Q&A for you in December. So on Friday, December the 10th, also from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., we'll have an open Q&A. I recognize that December is often that peak period where students finally have lots of questions as they're trying to get those applications in before the holidays and then before the January 13th deadline. So we will be online to answer questions as they come in. No specific faculty highlights that day, really just a space and a resource for you to come in with any questions that you may have, any connections that you may need. We just want to be readily accessible for you. We also are accessible by email. You can reach out anytime at admissions@carleton.ca, and we would be happy to continue to connect with you that way. Some of the other resources that I'll highlight this morning, keeping an eye out for any questions if they come in, but some important things coming up. Our virtual fall open house at Carleton is happening in just over a week's time. So this virtual open house will be on Saturday, November the 6th. As a few of our presenters have shared today, we'll have faculties from across the university, programs, and professors to chat with students to get some more information, along with our admissions and recruitment team and student support services to get some more information. So if students are considering Carleton, that's a big upcoming event that we really recommend that they come to. For those students who may be local or are interested in coming to campus to get an experience, we also do have limited in-person options on Saturdays. These Saturdays rotate through different programs. So students can go to our admissions open house page, and one of my colleagues will pop the link there in the chat for you. And underneath information about our virtual fall open house is information about these in-person options, including the programs that are included each Saturday. So this includes a campus tour and some information about the programs themselves. So Carly has posted a link there in the chat for the open house. So definitely something that you will want to connect your students to. Additionally, if you have any questions at any time, we're always here to support. If you would like our team to come and present to your students in your school virtually, you can definitely make that request. We're happy to do that and set those up. If we've already been there and you want us to come back, students have more questions, definitely let us know. And we can also send you hard copies of our view books if you need anything. All of the information for you and resources are available at admissions.carleton.ca/guidance counselors. So that's a great place to stay connected with what's happening, what's coming up, and the resources and information that we have for you. But thank you so much for attending this morning, setting aside an hour of your time to spend with us here at Carleton. We really do appreciate everything that you do and everything that you have done, especially over the last year and a half. Things have been crazy, but you've done such a great job at supporting your students, and we appreciate everything that you do and the way that you support your students and the way that you help prepare them for when they come to university. And any role that we can play in supporting you while you do that, we are here for. So if you have any questions, I'll stick around for another couple of minutes. Happy to answer any of those as they come in, but thank you so much for joining us this morning and have a great Friday.